I'm thrilled to be here today with Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox, the Eurythmics. And in the performers category, we're thrilled and honored to welcome the Eurythmics to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Now, when you first heard the news that you were elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who did you think of first?
Him. Him, Dave. I thought of him. The other one.
Yeah, I thought of her. Like, yeah, we kind of sent messages to each other, and then we called each other, and we always have this humorous banter, Annie and I, on text or on emails. It's kind of a British, Scottish tongue-in-cheek, and so I suppose it's sort of playing it down, but also being kind of excited at the same time, you know?
Yeah, it's a funny thing because, you know, all this thing about success and failure, everybody that's been inducted or proposed to join the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, each one of them know what that feels like, because there's always that expectation, you know, that you hope that something will happen. And we've had so much expectation and failure and expectation and success. So for me, it's still sinking in. I'm still just taking it, because actually what I've tried to do is not to ever anticipate that anything is going to be a failure or a success. I think that's something that especially performers really have to learn how to kind of work with that, you know, how to temper it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you understood, or people knew the beginnings, like most people's beginnings who want to be a creative or set off on a creative journey, it's completely bonkers. A British word, bonkers. Maybe bananas is a better American phrase. But yeah, I mean, the things that Annie and I went through just to get on one tiny stage somewhere in the middle of nowhere, you know, and then, you know, trying to get enough money together to get some tiny amount of equipment, and it was all very experimental, and we had no idea that the experiments we were making were going to be, you know, a success in inverted commas.
Yeah.
We just knew when we'd done something really good, because then we'd order margaritas.
Oh yeah, we always had margaritas. That always helped us, right?
So a good day was like we'd order margaritas.
Margarita night.
A bad day we'd be going home like, oh God, it's all a mess. It sounds all strange.
Existential angst.
Yeah.
Pervading the room.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you know, this honor is in recognition for, you know, creating great art and impacting so many others. But it's very interesting to think at that moment too that everybody that succeeds also has failures along the way.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
And failures can be learning opportunities. I mean, I think what one has to do is to curb the you know, the immediate reaction is to feel totally despondent, as Dave described. You know, there's this feeling of despair. I mean, Dave and I have been through, as he says, so much. You couldn't actually ever write a book about it. You couldn't make a film about it. I don't know what the heck it would be, you know. It's indescribable what we've been through. And it's only Dave and I that know what it was, or the people that came and went and experienced playing with us, or, you know, there's a whole teamwork of people behind the scenes, behind the curtain, that the audiences, they don't know any of this. You know, we're like magicians that have to pull giant rabbits out of giant hats.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, minutes before you're about to go on stage, somebody whispers in your ear, like, you know, anything like the curtains are stuck, or like whatever it is. There's all these people running around, you know, and yeah, it's
That's right.
like,
Spinal Tap got it right, didn't they?
yeah,
It's Spinal
yeah,
Tap.
Well,
it's
well,
like,
Rock and
sorry.
roll.
Mhm.
well, you know, the folks on the floor above me that are your your fellow Hall of Fame inductees, they know that, whether it's Smokey Robinson and Aretha, or whether it's you know, U2, or the Clash, or Bruce Springsteen, or whomever, they probably have that similar
Oh
experience.
yeah, oh
Um,
yeah.
Complete-
We've
Completely.
often, yeah, probably talked to a lot of them about that and roll
yeah,
around on the floor laughing about their experiences and swapping. That's a great thing when artists get together and you can actually talk about stuff that maybe other people wouldn't understand. So there's like a sort of humor about being in a desperate situation, and you sort of swap these desperate
Yeah.
situation
Yeah.
humorous moments, you know.
yeah,
You
Nobody
know,
talks, none of the you know, huge artists when they get together go, oh my God, I played in this stadium. Oh my God, I did this. We all talk about the time when something went terribly wrong, or like when, you know, something was so ridiculous, you know,
yeah.
that's the sort of connection.
Yeah. And I was also thinking that so many artists have made such an impact and they didn't make it. I mean, in the terms that they weren't able to sustain their lives. You know, they
Yeah.
died when, you know, there's always that myth about the 27, which is a horrible thing. But, you know, young people are come up with such passion and tremendous talent and just exceptionalism. The Jimi Hendrix, you know, I'm thinking, I mean, you know, we all know the list, and they're
Hmm.
not here anymore, and they should be here, you know.
Mm.
And I think it really it speaks to an ability to withstand the rigors that we've all had to endure. You know, we've all had to go through.
Mm.
mhm.
Yeah,
Well, that,
I made a film called Deep Blues, and I mean, I was influenced by the blues, and you know, people like R.L. Burnside, you know, and the other side, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and you know, or even going backwards in time, you know, through the blues players and Mississippi John Hurt, and you know, it all of these artists influenced music in a very poignant way. And we might have had started, and people first heard us with this electronic sound, but
Mm,
it was actually the blues that we were playing, and and he was singing the blues, and then she was singing soul music, and our influences, a lot of it came from American music, because we're, you know, obviously Annie's Scottish and British, and we're going into the American Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and
mm,
it's quite sort of, I feel quite full circle in a way, because there we are in our hometowns, you know, in Aberdeen and Sunderland, and listening to sort of American music, whether it's like soul music or Motown, or I was listening to blues music, and
absolutely.
never imagined in a million years that I'd even be making any music. Never mind being
Yeah,
in America and
yeah,
being put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
that's right.
so think about this, right? We are in Cleveland, Ohio.
Mm,
We are in the
Hmm.
U.S., but we are the only Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the entire world.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so many of those that you referenced, Sister Rosetta, it will be hanging on the wall 2 feet from you upstairs forever. And if you go back in time to great soul singers, or go back in time to great blues players and great other artists, that's the group that you're part of now. You've succeeded, you know, professionally. You have, you know, been amazing. But then to have this honor, I'm curious, how's it feel?
Now that you've just said that, it's quite daunting. Um, you know, I think both Annie and myself
mm,
adore certain, you know, singers, performers,
mm,
songwriters,
mm.
and you never actually put yourself in their world. You know, you're always kind of in a way a fan, you you know, in a way of their, you know, music and their exceptional performances or whatever. So it's really hard to imagine or feel that 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 we're going to be amongst these other artists. So when you say how do you feel, I'm a bit like Annie. It's like just sinking in, you know.
That's right. That's right. You process. It's a kind of processing going on right now, because it has been a reflection now on our life's journey, our life's path. Because we came from nothing. We just started with nothing. We didn't have. Dave actually, when I met Dave, had 2 plastic bags, and his whole life's contents were in these bags. And I was just a naive kid from Aberdeen, from this northeast town, and I was looking for people that I could connect with, you know, but I mean in a sort of spiritual, emotional connection, artistic connection, because I was an outsider, and I didn't realize that I was an outsider. I just felt uncomfortable, and I knew that music was my, what could I say? I identified with it so strongly, you know. I mean, I truly believed at one point, I just said, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'd been through, I went to the Royal Academy of Music, and I dropped out because I knew from the very first day that I didn't belong there. And that was scary, because I had no other, I mean, it was a huge deal for a working class girl to get to the Royal Academy of Music. And when I dropped out for a couple of years, I was just lost. And one day I just said, I'm a singer-songwriter. And it stayed with me. It was, oh, that's who I am. And it's gone on ever since, you know.
Yeah. First time I ever met Annie, she played something on the harmonium and was singing. And I just assumed, well, yeah, you're an artist, a singer-songwriter. And then she told me the reverse story of getting to that point, you know.
Yeah.
I similarly, you know, was in Sunderland. My parents had broken up. Sunderland was probably the most unemployed town in England, you know, 70% unemployment or something like that. And I didn't want to work at Pyrex glass factory. And I was practicing the guitar like 9 hours a day and got to London. And, you know, it's true what Annie is saying. Like, you know, when we met, we actually eventually moved into a squat, you know, which is a place where, you know, you take over somewhere. A friend of ours had, yeah,
Or something like that.
yeah,
London,
you kind of,
in the 70s, you know, if you ever see the film With Neil and I, which is just so brilliant, I think it's a mix of Spinal Tap and with Neil and I.
Yeah.
And that really kind of sums up the sense of London in the 70s for me, you know, but although Spinal Tap is at the American side, you know, but it's still the same kind of desperate, kind of empty, hollow outsider looking. Like Sweet Dreams is really sums it up. Everybody's looking for something, and we were looking for something. We were looking. We didn't know exactly what it was, but we were working on it. We were really, really trying to find it.
I do want to see if there's any other thoughts about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it's an interesting process, because you get nominated. First, you aren't nominated, then, which is a bit of a rejection if you think of it that way. And then you are nominated, and then you don't go over the top. And then you get nominated again, and you can't emotionally invest too much in it.
Exactly.
In the event. And then
right.
it happens.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, actually, we always say that it's not the prize at the end; it's actually the journey that takes you there. And those prizes, they come. You know, this notion that people have of fame. I want to be famous. That's not it. You're missing the point. It's all about what are you doing? What is the content? And for us, that was music. And you know, when video came along, that was another aspect to it, because we both have a visual sensibility. And it was just all of a sudden, it's like, wow, what is this thing? And Dave immediately, because he's a futuristic, he's visionary, and he caught on to it and he understood. And, you know, in a second, he's writing a storyboard for Sweet Dreams, and I'm looking at, I mean, I'm drawing it out because he's describing to me what it was, and I'm sort of sketching it on a piece of paper. And it's incredible because this is all from our minds. This is from our hearts and our souls and our minds and our life experience, you know. And it's because we're both sort of like interested in the world, we're drawing from all these different sources, you know. And music is a beautiful place where everything can merge together. And it doesn't have to be that, you know, music, I could talk about music forever, but the freedom of music and the beauty of music and how musicians connect with each other, even if they come from extremely opposite cultures. We have a safe, beautiful, peaceful place, and we need that as human beings.
Yeah, I think what Annie said, taking it a bit further, and now thinking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So these are all characters and people who are outsiders and had to sort of go and form their own tribes. And I think the reason that this exists in all art forms, you know, in dance and in painting and everything, is the reality of the world, the way it is organized by, you know, various leaders, and society is created and people are meant to fit into this thing, you know. And I always think, well, you know, you're 5 years old and you go to school and they start giving you tests, and then at 11 there's another test and they say it's important, this one, and then and then they're sort of grooming you for the system, and then you're at secondary school and the tests get more difficult and you think, oh, now the big test to get into college, and then you're in college, oh, there's more exams, and then you tumble out at 22. And I suppose the sort of organized sort of society goes, right, now you're ready for it, and then you go, ready for what? You know, ready to, you know, consumerism, ready to work in a, you know, and it's people like us just halfway along that journey kind of realize, hang on, this is not my beautiful house. You know what I mean? It's like, this is not the world that I want to be in.
Yes.
And so then you have to create your own little world, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have to say, Dave and I, we found each other, you know, and that was the beautiful thing, that we really discovered each other, and in each other we complemented, you know, so that he was capable of one thing, doing it really well, and I had some other thing, but it worked so beautifully together. So I really think Sweet Dreams is really the culmination of the best of both of us, you know.
It's interesting, actually, just adding to that, because when this happened and we got said, we, you know, the other day, okay, you're going to be put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I went to look back at, you know, songs, and I'm remembering about them, and now funny things like sitting in a kitchen in Paris and I'm playing the Would I Lie to You riff on the guitar. This is all happens in the same day, you know, like you get to the studio, Annie hears it, and I can't even know how we did it, but within like an hour and a half or something, there's a song. And this happened over and over again, you know. It wasn't, I don't think we labored on any song. I can't remember any song where we spent days or weeks going over it. It just was, hey, what about this? Boom. You know, or Annie would go, what about this?
We were in the zone, you know, we were in a zone.
Yeah.
We created our own zone. And I think it was really at that time, you know, the opportunity to get that opportunity to create was what we wanted. That was what we wanted, you know. It wasn't about the end result. It wasn't about the prizes. Because those things, if you create something of value, maybe the prizes will come, but you can't make anything, because at the end of the day, we're going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. No, you have to do the journey. You have to take the steps. You know, it's the hero's journey. It's Joseph Campbell's journey in a funny sort of way.
Yeah.
It's the 10,000 hours. You know, the funny thing is, Annie just mentioned something, and it's true. We were in the zone, but we knew we had to lock everything out. to be in the zone. So even when we were really successful, we'd go and do something in a tiny little room, or where nobody else would be, like nobody would interfere with what we were doing. And I
We
think a
made
lot of,
our environment, actually. That was,
yeah,
we made a hub
Yeah.
like I have here, and Dave has in
yeah,
Nashville. If you're in Nashville now, he will have his hub, and he has his people and his scene of creativity, and that's an amazing thing to
Yeah.
still
yeah,
have that.
Again, it'd be fun to talk a long time about the process, and to see one thing comes from the last 2 minutes of discussion, and that is it's both of you have had terrific careers post Eurythmics, like amazing careers. But I love the way that you can look back and be in that room together again, and think about it. And so I'm going to rephrase my question just a hair. And it's what does it mean to be going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with each other?
Ah,
um,
good question.
very special to me, because we have done lots of things separately. And so it starts to go a bit faded, what happened then. But when you look back at the amount of work in a space of time and what that created, and how it's still all over on radios and everywhere, it really is a special thing. And for me, it's a very, very special thing to play on stage with Annie, because I know exactly the feeling of what she's saying or singing, and I know exactly how to move with or around that. And we both know that that's something, but we both know it's Eurythmics. And so
Yeah, that's the funny thing for us, is if ever we get together, we become a unit. Does that make
yeah,
sense? It's as if we're joined at the hip. And I think it was essential for both of us to individuate after a while, because our creative output was so intense, and there really is so much of it. I'm just amazed. I mean, I can hardly believe how much work we've done together, how we shared that vision together, and how we survived it all. I mean, like I say, a lot of people died, because actually this thing will eat you up if you're not prepared, if you're not protected. All manner of monsters are out there that can take you. And I just think it's amazing that anybody is still managing to be positive and creative. It's phenomenal that
yeah,
as Dave said earlier about this circle coming around to this point. It's a beautiful thing, and you can only be grateful and kind of in awe of what has happened.
yeah.
Well, that circle is all the way around, and you'll be going in together, um, which is amazing.
I think final thoughts from myself, and hopefully from Annie, is, yeah, we're very honored, because we know how much it takes to get to this point, and the other artists that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame are so unbelievably brilliant
Yeah.
that it's quite hard to take in, but we're very honored.
I endorse that 100% completely. Life is a journey, and there are some wonderful things that happen along the way, and also some challenges. We've all just come out of an incredible, challenging period that everybody was affected by, and what an amazing thing to come into 2022 and actually land here. It's a huge honor. It really, really is, and I just want to thank everybody that's ever worked with us, that's ever been associated with us. I have to thank them, because it's teamwork too. They were all there and know what it took, and I'm just appreciative.
And all the fans that voted too.
And all the fans, 460,000 or something I don't remember, but it's a lot of people, and they are still kind of there. And wow, we're kind of growing older together.